This presentation is provided to amuse or entertain and not to inform. Content provided by the Airborne Saint YouTube channel should not be used to replace any professional, financial, legal, or medical advice. All footage taken and used from public sources falls under the Fair Use in Digital Millennial Copyright Act of 1998. Therefore, no breach of privacy or copyright has been committed.
Into thy hands I commit my spirit. It is finished.
Hello, Texas! Are you ready? Get your feet off the ground. There you can assert the kind of life that might persuade a strict dictator to retire. Fire the army, teach the poor origami. Truth is in the proof is when you hear your heart start asking what's my motivation. Try as you may, there isn't a way to explain the kind of change that a mega Eskimo renounce for, that a mega vegetarian barbecue hamster. Lest you can trace this about face to a certain size. Shine, make 'em wonder what you got. Make 'em wish that they were not on the outside looking bored. Shine, let it shine before men. Let 'em see good works of it. Let 'em glorify the Lord. And the shaker under the plate, it isn't karma, it's showing fate. That'll make a deadhead sell his man. That'll make a schizophrenic turn in his crayons. Over freaks, science seeks a rationale that shall excuse this strange behavior. When you let it shine, you will inspire the kind of entire turnaround that'll make a bouncer take ballet. Even bouncers who aren't from Texas, but have the glare with nowhere to turn, you ain't gonna learn it all. What's my life? Sing it, shine. Make 'em wonder what you got. Make 'em wish that they were not on the outside looking bored. Shine, let it shine before men. Let 'em see good works and then let 'em glorify the Lord. If you're happy, get your feet off the ground. What you got, make 'em wish that they were not on the outside looking bored. Shine, let it shine before men. Let 'em see good works then let 'em glorify the Lord. Shine, make 'em wonder what you got, make 'em wish that they were not on the outside looking bored. Shine, let it shine before men. Let 'em see good works and then let 'em glorify the Lord. Let me hear you sing it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is great to be back in one of the greatest states of the United States of America, Texas! Now tonight, we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna get our feet off the ground. We're gonna make a lot of noise. And we're gonna sing at the top of our lungs. Can you do it? Come on. Shine, I make her wonder what she got. I make her wish that they were not on the outside looking bold. Shine, I let it shine before man. I let him see good works then. I let him glorify the Lord. Shine, I make her wonder what she got. I make her wish that they were not on the outside looking bold. Shine, I let it shine before man. I let him see good works then. I let him glorify the Lord. You were born to glorify the Lord.
Good morning. I'm Airborne Saints. Awaken in the morning. I have Aaron with me. I'm going to read Romans 12, verse 2, and then let's shine. Let's shine this morning. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, and ye may prove what is the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. That's a good word for today, and let's get Aaron up here and find out what is going on. There she is. Here
Hello.
I am. I know we're not in Texas. That said Texas a lot. Like,
Who
we're
was
not.
that?
You're not in Texas, neither am I.
Who was the one singing? Who's the group?
That was Newsboys.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was?
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
pretty much allowed to play anything they have, and they don't copyright me or anything. They're really nice. They're nice people.
Well, I
Yeah.
like that song. I didn't know
That's
it was the Newsboys.
Yeah, it's the Newsboys. Yeah.
Maybe I need to
So
get into
what?
it a little bit more.
Yeah, they have some good music. I have a whole folder full of their stuff. I sent them back when I was Awakened Saint back in the days. I sent them an email, and then they sent me a whole bunch of free stuff, like tons of it.
Man.
They're like, play all my stuff.
That's
Play all my
great.
stuff. We like what you do. And I was like,
Instead,
hey,
you have people like Lauren Daigle who will charge up to $1,000 a ticket for her shows.
oh, Toby Mac, if you play his stuff, he will shut your YouTube channel down. Like, I've played Toby Mac by accident before, and my live stream got shut down while I was playing it. So that's how friendly they are, whoever owns that.
Well, a lot
So,
of these Christian labels are actually major labels, and people don't know that. So when they sign up to their Christian label, they're still
of course.
attached to the major label. And I don't know if they do know it or if they don't, but if they don't know it, they're still getting involved. I'm not just going to say they're selling their soul necessarily, but they're still getting involved in the same industry as the secular world because they are the same labels. And so they're getting paid through the same label. So there's got to be some level of something they have to do that makes me think that they've probably maybe not sold their soul, but they've done something that probably goes against their original belief. If they ever were Christian, I don't think I don't think that Lauren Daigle has ever been Christian. I think that she jumped into it pretending to be Christian because she couldn't make it in the secular world. So she went on into the Christian world, and then all of a sudden her voice just starts booming and sounding great. And so I think someone like her maybe went the extra mile, but I'm digressing. This is not necessarily the topic of the day.
Well, I don't know. We don't really have a topic. We're just kind of shooting from the hip, aren't we? I don't know. Whatever topic you have. I did want to mention, this is just something that was on my mind. I wanted to throw it out at you and see what happens, because you have your normies, right? The normie people. And I see a disparity in truth with, like, for instance, we'll say, before I say this is not to be taken seriously, and it does not replace any medical advice whatsoever, professional or anything like that. Seek your own medical advice. I don't believe in the COVID thing. So I say this stuff, and I right away, I can see right through the ruse, right? And the thing I think people miss, this is not what I'm throwing at you, but the thing I think people miss is secularism is pushed on us, right? By government entities and by the mass media and by Hollywood. But at the top, and this is what I want your opinion on, at the top, they're not secular. Oh, no.
They're very religious.
They have a God. It's not my
Absolutely.
God. It's not my God. They have a God. What do you
That's
think?
right. That's exactly right. And I was just saying how yesterday was such a big day for the New Agers. I was at my Bible study last night, and of course, a lot of people, mostly New Agers, think something big was going to happen. And I said exactly what you just said. Man, they're working really hard, but they're following the wrong leader. And my friend in Bible study was like, "Yep, isn't that the truth?" Because they thought yesterday a lot of New Agers thought they were going to new
Ascend
form
into what?
ascend into some new form of some their DNA was going to be open. They were going to start, this was the age of Aquarius, it was going to be the day that things started to change for them. And of course, a lot of them were made fun of for saying that they were going to suddenly have superpowers, but a few people tried to say, no, we don't believe we're going to suddenly have superpowers. Our DNA is opening, and the ascension is beginning because it's two planets came together. So big day for the occultists yesterday and the New Agers, but um, how much of that really comes true? Probably not much, because it's not the first time, first of all, that these planets have come together. But they get very excited about planets and stars and moons and things, but they're following a deceptive leader. So we don't. Who knows? But I didn't see much change yesterday.
Yeah. The thing I see all the time is people trusting their leaders, right? Their leaders of their particular governments. But then they have there's this secular realm between them and their leaders. And I don't think people understand that they're being puppeted, because the
For
people
sure.
leading them have beliefs. You
Right.
know what I mean? And they know what we believe. And I think at the extreme top, obviously Satan knows he already lost. He already
Oh, of
knows. I
course
mean,
he knows. He does know.
oh, of course.
He
Yeah.
just tricks his followers into thinking they have a chance, so they fight real hard for him, especially his earthly followers. But I guess you're well, right. There's also secularism in the church itself, because I think about a friend of mine who goes to church, and it's enough for her to hear some scripture on a Sunday, and then that's really it. They don't read the Bible together, her and her son. Although I do try to plant seeds, and I wish I had it in front of me, but we have what's called the Kingstone graphic like version of the Bible that I bought for my kids. So it looks like comic book, but it's extensive. It's like 3 volumes. It's the whole Bible. And I showed it to her, and she actually liked it. So she bought that for her son. So we've got our kids. My kid was just reading the book of Samuel. We read together the book of Esther through this graphic version. And so she bought that for her son for Christmas. So my point was that we see a lot of secularism in the church, where people think it's just enough to go on Sunday and get the scripture and be done. I imagine, like, I'm sitting here going, man, I need to do more for you, Lord. I'm not doing enough. And there's people that think it's just enough to go on Sunday. And I think that's kind of a secularism too, because the rest of their life is totally secular. There's nothing else that they're doing for the Lord except for, and I'm not sure they're even doing that Sunday thing for the Lord. But I'm excited because she is a good friend of mine, and I do try to plant seeds, and she's buying that Kingstone Bible for her, which I think the Kingstone Bible was recommended to me by Trisha, who is a blessing. She also sent me, I'm going to give a little shout out to her. She also sent me like some really neat oiled stuff, because you guys, she's just a sweet person. She sent me this oiled rotten miracle cream and a whole bunch of oils and colloidal silver, just because she's an awesome person. So shout out to people who, listen to us, not because of you and who you and I are, mostly because of God working in us. But I'm so glad that the Lord sees that people see the Lord through us, and they want to help us do neat things like that. And if I have to mute myself and get out of the scene for a second, guys, it's because I might have to sneeze or something. I have a cold. It's not the COVID, but who knows, because I haven't gotten tested. Anyway, back to you.
Man, yeah. You haven't got tested. Well, you just go to this guy. This guy could help you out.
What I do is just like you know, you know what I mean? Like,
I love that guy, because I just recently watched that, and I was just like, that's the kind of doctor I just wanted. If I went back to medical field, I was a PA, if you guys don't know that, which is a physician assistant, which is basically a provider. I'd want to do it like that.
It's like,
Don't worry. Let me just print up a receipt and you'll be good to go.
I like when he says, "Don't worry, girl. My ex-wife was a tard. She's a pilot now."
that would stick with you more than anyone.
I was like, come on now. In the future, you could be mentally handicapped and you can fly aircraft. That's just great. That's great to know that's my future.
That's because they're all mentally handicapped. And so what that should teach you is where there's a will, there's a way. And so even the mentally retarded can fly airplanes, man. There's a whole new world for everybody out there in the future.
I'm a pilot, so I didn't hear anything you just said.
That's cool. I mean, I'm just talking to the chat then.
Yeah. I lost track of where we were going with that. I threw myself off the
We're
rails.
talking about secularism.
Yeah, we had a direction, but send us somewhere because I had somewhere we were going. I threw myself off the rails with my own thing. Hey, Ceiling Fan Man's here. Look at that.
Yay, Ceiling Fan Man. Hi, Ceiling Fan Man. And hi, everybody else. There's so many people. I really admire how many people come on yours live because I get excited if I get 20 people live. I'm like, 20? And you've got like over 100. And I think that's a wonderful.
Yeah, I like
family.
Wait, yeah. We got a very dedicated group. Group of people. And the numbers are lying. I was telling Dave,
that's true too.
We had the analytics was showing we have way more people watch it than like we have 830 watch the show, but the analytics, because I do math, I'm a pilot, so we actually had about 1,200 people watch that show. Jeez. And they didn't post it. They posted 800 people.
And of course I know that, that happened way back when I first started my channel. I had put up a video. This was still when I believed in the globe Earth. So don't give me any crap if you go watch the video because there's like a globe Earth image in the beginning. But anyway, the video was showing, if you looked at the back office thing, whatever, I can't think, the studio, it was showing 1,200 views. But if you went and looked at the main channel, it says showing 999. Like it wasn't trying to let it go over 1,000. So even a small channel, even our small channels are getting super shadow banned. Anyway, not surprised, just kind of a bummer. But
well, the math you can do at home, ladies and gentlemen, is you can figure out the thumbs up versus the thumbs down. Like if you have, like we have 90 watching, maybe it says 90, and if we have, there's a certain percentage that thumb up, and everybody else just kind of watches and they never thumb up, and that's just how it is. And you take that percentage, the known common percentage, and apply it. That show we had last Friday had 141 thumbs up. So if you take that number and you apply to the percentage of the normal people that won't thumbs up, you easily come up with over 900 people watch the show. So it's just one of those type of things, kind of how you can figure out when elections don't go the way they're supposed to go. I'm saying, I'm just telling you that kind of thing. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, well, and the thumbs up thing is I usually see about 10%. 10% or more is good. If you're getting 10% thumbs up,
10%.
Okay.
10%. She was a PA, guys. She just proved it.
I'm learning.
See?
Yes. And since I was also that, we gave a lot of jabs, should we call it, to people.
Oh no, yeah. What's going on with that? The chat room smart. Why is everyone saying jab? Why are they saying that?
Maybe they want to think of it like it's just a quick javelin throw. There's a really funny rumor going around that the nurse that passed out is passed on, but I don't see any good proof for that. You haven't seen that? I was sent a video, and God love my friend that sent it, but it was so terrible. I was like, the amount of lack of research that this person did. They actually went and tried to find her full name and then bought information, paid for information on her, which pulled up absolutely nothing, not even her nursing license. So I'm like, well, looks like they're scrubbing her information, but I don't know that AJ says she's a crisis actor, but if you go back on her Facebook and her Instagram, they're pretty extensive.
Is she a real person?
Yeah, from what I can tell, her Facebook and her Instagram have been being posted on since, I think the Facebook since 2009 and Instagram since 2012, pretty regularly. So that seems like a real person. So I don't know that they'd work that hard to build a life for her if she wasn't a real person, seeing how she's just one of many people who's gotten this injection. And anyway, I don't know that she's necessarily passed on. I think more she's being bombarded by truthers that don't do really great research, and they're bothering her. I think they're all just jumping.
on. That would probably get out, wouldn't it? I mean, there's so many people on to jump on something like that.
The problem
You know?
is if you get anybody like the Q community involved in something like that, they just glom onto it. Like
Oh,
it's
the Q, boy, they let us down, didn't they? The
mm,
Q people.
yeah. Hello. What is Q saying about what's going on these days? I'll tell you what they're saying. They're still saying trust the plan, and they've still got some plan. And they still believe Trump's going to pull it out. I don't think Trump. If you look at, he doesn't even have any energy anymore. He's just like, yeah, I'm done.
Well, they stopped holding up the cue cards for him, but I digress. But
Good
whoops,
one.
yeah, dun. I mean, I'll have an MRAP in my front yard, and the queue will say "Trust the plan." I don't those guys. I'll be like, "Hey, that's a big armored vehicle. Why is that in my front yard?" It'll get to that point, and the queue will be like, "Just be quiet," and it goes away. Come on. I mean, they
Giving
they
yourself
never.
away. Yeah, I keep saying, what are they going to say about this now, and what's going to happen? And here's what I want to tell you guys is that I had friends in the Q community when I was first part of it, and they had big channels. And when the bigger they got, the more they thought that they could step on the heads of other people to get even bigger. And where are they now? Now, I'm just saying, I'm not glad. I've told people I'm not going to be happy when things go down, but I'm glad I got off that train a long time ago, because they've all lost their channels. They've now got GoFundMe's trying to get money because they were making 10 grand a month on YouTube. People don't realize that YouTube is really the only place that you can earn this kind of income if you get big enough. And that once that's taken down,
How are they making money? You make money. You can make money on YouTube.
So first you can you might get demonetized by YouTube, but because you have a huge following, like let's just say SGT Report, he's got SD Bullion as a sponsor, and then any of those, you see when they do those. Look at High Impact Flicks. He's always doing some kind of ad at the beginning.
Oh, well, yeah. Brian's got it wrapped pretty tight. He's got a nice show.
Right. So those sponsors pay him like $2 grand just to run an ad for 2 weeks. And so if you can do multiple ads in a month, you can get easily 5 to 10 grand. And yet, so a couple of them that I had been friends with, that kind of, I think betrayal is a pretty good word for what happened with our friendship. Well, they've lost their channels. They've got GoFundMe's. They're begging for money. And I'm still where I'm at. I'm not making a bunch of money. My point is not that I'm glad where they are, but I tried to warn them, and I tried to tell them, I said, this is all this money, worldly stuff. And they're like, no, I'm doing just fine. And next thing you know, they've got new age people that they're interviewing about Q. I mean, lots of new age stuff with Q, and, questionable sources. And then they just start glomming onto any story anywhere, which is what I was getting to with that lady, the nurse that possibly passed on. It's like they'll just grab onto a story like that and do very, very little research on it and pass it around. And it is so bad for the actual truth community. So I hope they just kind of disappear, and, because what's Q going to tell them? What has Q got to say now for anybody?
Well, they probably were a sponsored element to begin with. At the root of it, it was probably a government entity.
Absolutely.
So, because you said many things that keyed off. It's bad for the truth community. Sounds like it's sponsored. They don't do good research, and they make us look like we don't research.
Right.
Sounds sponsored. I mean, it sounds propped up to me.
Well, there was a group called Cicada that we've talked about on my Friday show with my friend NPC, and he's done some research. And cicadas have 5 eyes, and they come out. They go into the ground for 17 years. So there's a lot of similarities to stuff that cicada was apparently dropping in different areas, hens and stuff, for years. So it's not really anything new, but it kind of came out to the public, so to speak, but not really public, because it's not like the Chans are super public, but it became public because people started grabbing onto it. But it sounds like Q or some kind of government group has been dropping hints like this for people like this all along to try to give puzzles. And anyway, join us on Friday nights. We'll be live on this Friday too, even though it's Christmas, because Christmas is another pagan holiday to me, so we're not celebrating it the way everybody else does. So we'll be live talking about that kind of stuff again.
I remembered something I was going to say, but go ahead. I have it.
No, I'm done. That's it. Done.
That's it.
Go back to you.
Back to me. Well, I was going to say you saw the you saw the whole because you mentioned it, the whole lining up of Jupiter and Saturn, and they kept calling it the Christmas star, and
Yeah.
Jesus wasn't born in December,
No. No,
right?
very
And I,
unlikely. He was more likely born September 11th if you really want to get specific.
yeah, I believe he was born September 11th, and you could narrow it down to September August easily. And he so it wasn't that. And I was seeing all over Facebook, and I had friends that kind of dab in Christianity. They kind of dip their toe in there,
Yeah.
and then if it's too warm, they go away. Those kind of guys,
Right.
you know. And they're like, oh, the Christmas star, that's a holy star. And I'm like, I don't know who it's holy for because Jesus wasn't born in December. So
The only way I could explain that, because the wise men were of Orient, maybe they didn't show up until that time of the year, but Jesus would have already been born. They didn't show up at his birth. That's all I can say is maybe they followed those planets. But that doesn't, the Christmas star is a super misnomer because Christmas,
you think the wise men were 3 months late to his birth?
why not? Some people even think 2 years.
Why?
Who knows?
Well, I don't think he wasn't laying in the manger for 2 straight years, right? I mean,
Mm-mm.
I think that was
He
kind of
probably wasn't even in a manger, but I don't have a lot of proof on it. I don't have research on. I don't have notes on this, so I'm not gonna.
we don't know.
We're just having fun. But
Yeah.
we don't know for sure. But I Christmas itself, the word is is like Christ Mass, more like a celebration of like the death of Christ, and the tree is so satanic. I've just the amount of research I've done it. I was confirmed about that last year, and so I told my children last year, I said we're not doing a tree next year. We're done with that. And we haven't done one this year. And they're so cute because they've known it all this year, but they're like, well, where are we going to put the presents? I'm like, the presents will be there. And again, gift giving should also, could be questionable, but I'm weaning this out of our lives as easily as possible. So I have small children. We're doing things as I think it fits best. And so we no longer decorate. We even talked about the celebration of Hanukkah, the feast. We get into the feast now a little bit more, like the Feast of Sukkot and everything like that. So that doesn't make me a Jew. All that means is we're finding holy days to celebrate, and not ritualistically according to the law, but just finding a way to glorify the Lord as well as every day. I know somebody's going to throw, I just do it every day. Well, yeah, as well as every day, but finding ways to make secular holidays back into holy days for my family. So it's a transition with young kids, especially for me. I'm learning. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. So we're transitioning into that. And so for Christmas, I got us a hotel room. We're going to go to a hotel. There's a water slide there. The kids will get to go have fun, swim, and we each get one gift. So we'll worship the Lord first. We'll praise the Lord and be thankful that we can do these things. And that's how we're celebrating this year.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I noticed that even the colors have meaning. Like green is an evil color. Green is represented as evil in so many things. And then you have red. Red is the color of the Eastern Masonic order, red. And blue is the Western Masonic order. And when you put them together, you get purple, which is royalty.
And then you look at what you put on the top of the tree. And okay, so look at this. What does tree mean in the Bible?
Let's go.
Usually.
Let's take a look. You want to take a look?
I mean, I'll tell you if you want to. Go ahead.
Tell us.
Okay. Generally speaking, the tree means a human or a kingdom of people. So like when the blind man says, I see men walking around as trees. I have other references if you want. Daniel 4, the tree represents Nebuchadnezzar. Ezekiel 31:3, Romans 11:24. There's one that talks about the kingdom of Assyria, and a tree is often used to describe. Myatt knows people.
Yeah.
People or a group of people or a person. And so if you've got a tree that's a kingdom of people and you've got a star at the top, well, who does the star possibly represent? Angel of light? Well, then it's another thing people put at the top of the tree, an angel. And often the angel has got an instrument or 2 candles. So really it's like a spit in our face of Lucifer at the top of a kingdom of people.
Or it could be
on a green tree with apples hanging all over it.
Like a fallen angel too. Well, fallen angel.
It doesn't have to be Lucifer, right? But you think about the angel with the musical instrument, and I think that would point to Lucifer. But regardless, there's nothing Christian about it. It's even in Jeremiah 10:2-4 that this is not a Christmas tree, and it's speaking of idolism. So that hit me real hard finally for the first time last year before any of the other stuff. So praise the Lord, we learn bits at a time, and I haven't even dug into the pagan history of Easter yet, but I will. And so I'm taking it one holiday at a time.
Yeah, if we're still around, God willing, we'll talk Easter. I've done extensive study
Good.
on it. It's real messed up. It's very messed up.
The Ishtar, it's just like, isn't it more like the worship of Ishtar, I think? But
it is. And there's a lot of fertility stuff, and it's just it's not good. And the kids are doing a ritual that you really shouldn't have your kids looking for eggs. You really should.
Good.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not again. Well, it's kind of like Halloween. You don't want to have a jack-o'-lantern because, like Gary Wayne was telling us, because I had him on just recently for a Christmas special, that anything named Jack, like Jack Frost, actually summons that spirit. So a jack-o'-lantern puts a spirit, puts a spirit in your snowman, or puts a spirit in your pumpkin, and you put that on your doorstep, and then you have kids saying trick or treat at your door. And then you learn about, that makes me laugh.
No.
You learn about Krampus, who's the one. So Santa and Krampus are going around together, and Santa's giving rewards to the good kids, and Krampus is beating and sometimes taking the bad kids and putting them in that cage on his back, and he's got the horns and the chains and everything. Anyway, very dark stuff that some countries still celebrate. They have Krampus parades and.
Oh no, they do not. Not this year, because there's a new strain of the coronavirus.
Okay, well, you know, some good. I guess some good will come out of that. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you can't have parades, and and I guess if churches can't celebrate Halloween because they're closed down, I mean, there's a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, well, there's a lot going on with that. What did I want to mention about Christmas? Man, drawing a blank again. I'm doing horrible right now. No. No, so you mentioned Easter. That then I started thinking about all this stuff I know about Easter, and my brain went to the wrong thing. Hey, look, we have a visitor. It's like, what are we doing?
Hold on, what? Oh, she needs some clippers. Maybe she's going to actually, do some hygiene today. Good for you. Okay, I can't do that right now. Yeah. Anyway, back to you.
Back to me. So Christmas is bad. Okay. Oh yeah, so one thing I heard another YouTube channel, not me or you, was saying how long are we going to get away with? How long do we think we'll get away with calling Christmas Jesus's birthday and giving little Johnny a computer game for a gift? How long are we going to get away with doing that? Because eventually God will judge us. That was a pretty profound thing he said. Because he's like, you're going to keep giving little Johnny a video game and saying Merry Christmas and saying it's Jesus' birthday. There's going to be a point where God's finally going to get tired of hearing that. Because look at Jesus' life. Did he do anything that resembles Christmas at all?
Nope. No, in fact, he observed the feast days. So as I'm learning these things, I agree that it's going to have to just be a prayerful thing between you and the Lord. And I'm not saying the Lord said, yeah, Aaron, buy gifts give them on Christmas Day. I'm not saying that. But for me, I'm going to do as I am in my prayers. I'm going to do it as I'm being shown to kind of continue to do life. And I know that next year we'll probably do none of this. That none of this will be there'll be no notion of that day being anything in particular. In fact, I've already been saying that. That's why I said, we're going to do a live show still on Friday, because that day is just another day for us to worship the Lord like any other day. And so it is easy for people. It's so funny because we really are a minority, this, because as soon as I mentioned it to friends and family, my family was upset with it. My dad was disappointed, and then that I don't want to have a Christmas tree or celebrate Christmas on the day of the 25th, the way that everybody does. And they're like, they want to pull Jesus says we don't have to do things by the law anymore, and we don't have to follow the feast days. And I'm like, I'm not saying by law I have to follow the feast days, but Jesus celebrated the feast days. And I think that there were certain days that Jesus pointed out that we weren't supposed to celebrate, not just Jesus, but the Old Testament too. And so And then I have friends that as soon as I tell them, they immediately go, well, we pray and we do all this beforehand. And I always say, cool, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just letting you know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. But there's this immediate feeling that they think I'm telling them what to do, and there's this defensiveness, and so what's not hard is for me to make the decision for my family. What is tough is when family starts getting, upset with you about it. And so I'm sure people have faced that in the chat. I'm sure other people have gone through that.
Well, whenever you throw into anything that's counter to programming, you run into the defense mechanism that is added in the programming. Because I've said this many times, Christmas is one of the only holidays that has a defense mechanism. Because if you even say you don't like Christmas, before you even get to the point where you explain it, they'll call you a Grinch, because they wrote a whole book on that and made a movie and stories.
Right.
And, oh, you're a Grinch. I'm a Grinch. Well, let me explain. And most of the time you just get shut down, because you have to do Christmas. Who doesn't do that? And I've heard this excuse all the time during this time of the year. We're going to spend this much money. Why? Because of Christmas. Yeah, but that doesn't explain why we're doing it. Well, it's Christmas. Yeah, I know the holiday that's coming up, but why do we have to, we can't afford this. Yeah, but we can this year. No, we can't. We literally can't, because after Christmas, then we're like, why'd we do it?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
In fact, I'm reading a book by Og Mandino, and it's bumming me out because I loved Og Mandino. Have you ever read anything by him?
No, what's that about?
Well, he's just a Christian author that I used to love, and they're short books. I think he wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World, or gosh, forgive me, guys, somebody will know. But Og Mandino is a big Christian writer, and the books were never very long, and they were always really moving. And I'm reading this one by him now where they get into Christmas, and they're like running out of money, and the kids usually have this great Christmas list, and they're only asking for one thing because they can tell they don't have money, and they're like, we're going to go. And I'm like going, oh man, like here I'm trying to read some new books. So I just read The Robe, which was fantastic. I was bawling at the end of that. That's an old book from 1942 about a Roman who was part of the crucifixion, who casts lots and gets Jesus's robe. And it shows how it changes his life and the people around him just by having to go through that and having that robe with him and everything. And and he goes through even the apostle time, like he gets to meet Simon Peter and stuff. It's a very good book. So then I'm like, oh, I'll read some more Christian writing. I'm reading Og Mandino again. It's getting into Christmas. I'm like, it is so deep. It is so deep that we are such a minority that it's like, maybe we should write books. I don't know. We should try to get some more, just like Ark is doing, with his music. There's just so few people out there getting the real truth in a medium that we can all enjoy. Like book reading and music listening is so hard, because Og Mandino, I used to love his books. I used to, love Token, and I used to love all these guys that I can tell that are all part of it now. The reason that Token wrote about elves and gnomes and wizards and everything is because he understood the hierarchy of these bloodlines. And I thought it was just a really masterful mythology that he came up with in his mind, and yet he knows about the occult and the rings and the creatures, the bloodlines of these creatures. And anyway, getting to the point, I wish there was some books that we could read from more Christians. And we got Gary Wayne, but it's an 800-page book that I love, but there's not a lot of action, right? So we need anybody out there is a writer, get to writing some books, and let's do this. Like, let's get some fun books. Speaking of books, I got this for my kids, and this is
that big for everybody.
This is The Creature from Jekyll Island for your kids, and I even bought a whole bunch more from these guys because they talk about entrepreneurism. So maybe it's not all Christian based, but at least it teaches kids about the truth about the dollar. And then I thought this would be fun. We have this build a business sheet we're going to do, like if we wanted to build our own business, and how would we do it, and what would we sell, and what are we going to charge for it. And I don't know, it's fun little workbook things. So still, maybe it's not Christian based, but it's truth or information. And I think the more of this we can get out there, we don't need the internet. We can write books. We can sing songs. We can write letters. Let's stay as a community that way too, and not worry if the internet goes down. So anyway,
it may be good that you say that, because you know the next exercise that's coming, right? Are you familiar with the November exercise that's coming? So
Tell me.
what was the exercise? I don't even remember. Chat room, tell me. Everybody knows. What's the exercise that kicked off COVID-19? What was the
Oh, the
exercise?
event. The
Do
event
you remember what it was called? Event. What was it?
201. Event
Yeah.
201.
Yeah, Event 201. Well, there's an exercise this November coming up, and somebody in the chat room knows. What's the event called? I can't remember. I have to look it up. It's called exercise or event something. It's not 201, but it has to do with
202.
yeah. It has to do with the internet going dark. And it's what would happen. They always did this, like Event 201. They
Dark
said, what
winter.
would happen if they actually said this in Event 201, you know, they said, what would happen if a virus was released from Wuhan, China? They said that, and this virus spread the whole world before we could stop it. And they all talked about the different things they would do and all this. Well, this event coming up this next November, they say, what would happen if a cyber attack, no, it's not dark winter. It's
Dark
not
skies.
no, I don't think so. But anyway, they say the premise is what would happen if a cyber attack shut down international commerce worldwide all at once and no one could communicate on the internet for 4 straight days. What would happen? What would happen?
I have something for that.
Uh-oh.
Ham radio.
There's one. Yeah, there's one. And we can write letters.
Yep, write letters. Get your ham radio license. Learn how to operate these. I'm still not totally sure, but I'm learning. And I should have bought the 6 set. I only bought 2. I'm like, oh, I just need 2. And now I'm realizing I really could have used 6 because I could have gotten one to my parents, one to a couple of friends. But this is what we could learn, as well as writing letters. And I do give out my physical address to people so that they can write letters. And I did give out the link to my Discord, because until the internet goes down, it's a place where we can all share that information, because it's not public like Facebook. So it's not like if I wanted to, it's a private Discord where I invite you in, where other people can see stuff if you don't private message each other, but it's a trusted group of people. So we commune there.
Yeah.
And I have another plan. You want to hear my other plan?
Let's hear the plan.
The other plan is I'm buying a bus. I'm going to gut it out, and I'm going to rebuild it into our home, and I'm going to make it off-grid worthy. So that way, if the internet goes down, we'll still be able to survive.
Well, that is pretty awesome. That's pretty cool.
God
like
willing.
on land, are you going to put on like land that you own, or are you just going to disappear somewhere?
Well, I don't own land yet. So I have a mechanic friend that has some space that I'm going to ask him if I can rent that space while building. And he's a mechanic, so he might teach me a few things mechanic-wise. And then I think we'll roam for a while, because I know I've met people just from doing my YouTube all over the country that have said, we've got space, we've got land, come and visit, come check it out. So you can stop, place to place, and then I can choose if I want to buy or rent land. And I do have passports for us. It is possible if it's allowed. I don't know what's going to happen with the COVID pass yet, but I pray for more time. So we don't know yet.
I have to pause you there. The international travel's been stopped, right now.
Right. Okay. So I couldn't cross the border into Mexico currently.
I don't know about Mexico, but I know I'm in Saudi Arabia right now. And as of 2 days ago, they've stopped everything in Europe and over here again, just like before.
Well,
just like before.
This bus will not be done. It's not even going to be started till spring, probably, unless we have a super mild winter and I find the best bus and I can go get it. In fact,
We're supposed to have the darkest winter known to man. What's going on with that?
Yeah.
What happened?
So far it's been pretty nice up here, and we haven't had that much snow. In fact, it rained yesterday. So somebody asked me what brand I bought. I bought a 10-way ham radio that's called TENWAY. Baofeng is a really popular one that you can get a lot of videos for, but it runs the same. There's no real big difference. All the mechanisms of use. Now I can't tell you much more than that, because I don't know how to use them that well. But at least by the spring, when I'm building that bus, it'll take me, I hope to be done with it by fall. I don't want to do a 2-year project. And so my prayers are pretty specific. I'm praying that I'll find the right bus at the right time, and the right people will fall into my world and help with the right materials. And those things will just come together. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I have an actual good feeling with my relationship with the Lord that I'm supposed to be doing this, and those things are going to fall into place in such a way, and we're going to be up and running by hopefully next fall. And I'll probably have a longer, like a 40-foot bus, so it'll be a dually, so it's good on the snow.
Nice.
They're good in the winter wherever we travel. And I have a friend, I think my first place I'll go is my friend Duke, World Bigfoot Radio, because he's gotten me interested in his Bigfoot searchings. So we're going
All
to,
right.
he says the way they camp out is, they've got a whole bunch of people there. They got like a cooking area and all this stuff. And he says it's not really that serious. They're not going in the deep, deep woods to camp. You can hike and do stuff, but they make it a fun trip. And so that might be the first place we go.
Yeah, you might want to get a gel battery for the bus because they're resistant to EMP, just in case.
See, I need to write that down. What'd you say now exactly?
Get a gel-based battery.
Gel-based battery. See, this is how we learn this stuff as we come together and learn together.
I don't have a together video. I just looked. I don't have that one. I was trying to find something. I got to shut up and wear your mask, but you didn't say anything about wearing a mask.
I could try to find a way to get there, but if you want to hear a funny story though.
Sure, tell me a funny story.
You could use it on this lady. I went to the store to try to go shopping on Saturday a little bit, which was a total mistake, but my parents had my kids, so I'm like, I'm going to go do some shopping for myself. I needed some new socks and things like that. And so I go to Ross, and it's absolutely nuts. And they say, you have to wear a mask. And I say, no, thank you. And they don't chase me down or anything. But it was just too busy, so I leave. So I go to TJ Maxx, and there's a little bit of a line out the door. So I walk up to this lady who's like 10 feet away from the guy in front of her, but she has a mask on. And I said, oh, is there a line to get in? And she said, yes, they must be checking the number of people that can come in at a time. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, no.
And then I don't say anything. And then she looks at me and she goes, and if you're not going to wear a mask, can you please move away? And I said, no, you can move away.
Move away to what?
Move away from her.
Okay.
So I was too close to her. So my friend, I love my friend from Bible study last night. He goes, this wasn't very Christian of you, Aaron. I'm like, well, all I did was ask her why the line. Then she says I should move away. And I told her, no, you can move away. And she was so far away from the guy in front of her. I said, okay, fine, I'll move away. And I went in front of her and got in line behind the guy in front of her, because those people were all just stacked up like normal in line. Yeah. And she goes, oh no, you don't. And she rushes in front of me and starts snapping her fingers. And so I said, what's this do? So I started snapping my fingers back at her. And she goes, well, it got your attention, didn't it? And I'm like, oh, you had my attention, I promise. And then she left. And then she left it. And I probably saved her from a horrible adventure, because there were several people not wearing masks in that store that day, and they weren't social distancing. So she should probably be thanking me.
She reminds me of these guys when they're trying to work something out.
What's the matter with you? I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
I totally remember. That's what was going on in my head when she said get away.
She's like, don't you dare.
I'm trying to think and nothing happens.
Well, I guess it was very non-Christian-like of me to cut in line in front of her, but she wanted me to move away.
Yeah, that is the thing. It's this scenario we find ourselves in. It's really hard to do the loving neighbor thing, because our neighbors are nuts. Our neighbors have lost it.
I know. That's exactly right. It is hard. It is really hard.
I mean, I've used this many times to the believers, right? The believers, you just fill in the blank on your own. So I'm not inferring anything. If you infer something, it's your fault. But what I'm saying is, you can ask somebody, you're like, you have to social distance, you have to do this and that. Well, when you go to the store, it's the same person running the register every single day for weeks on end, isn't it?
I know.
Do you ever go to a store and like, oh, Susie is dead? Oh, yeah. Wow, that's bad. Or the store is closed now because they all got sick. Every one of them.
No. And it's been like 9, 10, 11 months or whatever. And okay, so I do have a friend who's a nurse, and it's really odd. I did have a conversation with him, and here I'm going to tell you what he said, because I'm not him and I can only go by what he said. But
Sure.
I've known the guy for 20 some years now. And I worked with him when I worked in the medical field for probably 3 years, and my mom worked with him for probably 15 years. So I know the guy, and he's a Christian, but he's also curses and things like that, but he does have a love for Jesus, and I know that. So I asked him, I go, what do you think's going on? And he goes, well, all I know, Aaron, and he thinks it's man-made. So he's not sitting here going like, oh, deadly virus, scared. But he thinks it's man-made because he says it shows up really weird. He goes, we do have people that just show up with weird symptoms. Like they'll have a pulmonary embolism for no reason. They haven't been flying. They don't have any kind of history of such a thing. They don't have like a autoimmune disease that causes that sort of thing. And he goes, and just some of these other weird symptoms of the alleged COVID. And he goes, and it's really bad. And he goes, they recover. He goes, most of them recover. They're not dying. He said, but it's really bad. And he goes, and it's unusual. And it's not normally like anything I've ever seen. And he says, and then the long-term side effects are odd. And so here's my thing is, if he's in there and he says he's seeing weird stuff that he's never seen, and the guy's been a nurse for over 30 years, there's something weird going on. People losing their smell. And if you watch Anthony Patch, he talks about how there is a virus out there and it's got HIV components in it. Well, we know for sure that the vaccine does too, because even Forbes said in October that you might have a greater risk of catching HIV if you get the COVID vaccine. And why would that be? Because they're putting at least one component. I've heard up to 18 components. We'll probably talk more about that Friday on my show. But I mean, I know none of you are going to get it, but this is what I try to tell people I know who will get it. And it turns out my nurse friend did already get it. So I said, I guess we're just going to wait and see what happens. And, he jokingly says, well, if I grow horns, and we'll know. I'm like, it's not that kind of change in DNA, but he got the Pfizer one. It's not the same as Moderna. But I think what we're seeing here is the HIV component is what lowers the immune system, why the 14-day incubation period happens. And then it makes COVID work better in your system if there really is going to be a COVID virus or a certain virus out there that they're doing. 5G might expand on that too. And so, I mean, that's what bothers me about that is if there is something out there people are catching, they're not even choosing. They're just going out and living and getting something that's going to now have this HIV component in it. And they're just as bad off apparently as if they get the vaccine. I don't know. Maybe the vaccine makes it worse, but.
Why? All I know is you could do the math on the exaggerated numbers that's put out. We know they're exaggerated, right? And you could do the math, and it looks at worst 98% survivable at worst. When you do the numbers that are displayed to us on the news, and then they're telling us on the news that this vaccine is 94% effective for a 98% survivable thing.
Yeah, what are we vaccinating against?
Why don't I just, and another thing that I don't understand is why are they pushing it so much? Like the news is like, hey, look, this guy's doing it and this guy's doing it. Like, hey, kids, look what they're doing. It's kind of, it's a little odd, I've never taken my medical advice from the news.
No,
ever.
gosh, ever. And, I shouldn't even take them from indoctrinated physicians either. Sorry, Linda, forgive me. She says, not catching anything, it is frequencies. That's possible too, but it makes me wonder why the frequencies are affecting some of us, like few of us, not really very many of us. We don't know very many people who are really having these goofy symptoms. The pulmonary embolism is part of that, or the not being able to breathe as part of the 5G stuff. But how come only so few of us are having the symptoms and the rest of us are doing okay? And is boosting my immune system actually helping if it's just frequencies? So I think it's not just frequencies. I think there's got to be more to it.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some kind of psychological attack going on for sure, because I call people branch Covidians that will not accept new information that's presented to them, because I run into people that are living back in March, because back in March we were told 1.5 million people will die by the end of April. I remember that, and I thought, wow, I mean, there's going to be a tsunami of death for us to see. That's a lot of people, right? I've been to war. That's a lot of people all at once. And we would notice that, right? And then April rolled around and nowhere near anywhere, not even a piece of that happened, right? But people are acting now. There's people now acting like we're at that stage where we think all of a sudden 1 million people are going to fall over. They're still acting like that. That's odd.
And it is odd. There's a psychological warfare that's really working. And it even is working on my family, because my dad at first, he called me a few weeks ago and he's like, well, so-and-so tested positive and we just want you to know, because we were all sitting at the same table. And I go, yeah, well, we wouldn't have called me a year ago. He had a fever first. He just had a fever. So-and-so had a fever and we were sitting at the table with him. I go, So, like a year ago, you would not have called me and told me that so and so had a fever at all. Like if he wasn't, there's some kind of concern in his mind about COVID, and then the guy turns out he tests positive, right? You know how many people I've been around that have tested positive, and I'm like, whatever. And I get a cold, and like I'm all careful not to cough in the store or anything because I don't wear a mask, so I don't want to be everybody be like, like Invasion of the Body
Oh,
Snatchers,
no.
where they turn around and scream. You need to have a clip
Super
from that.
spreader.
You need
Super
an
spreader.
you need an Invasion of the Body Snatchers scream
Oh.
clip.
There it is. You hear it, guys. It happens. That's how my clips build, because now I'll have that.
You've got to have that.
They have says you need to have this, and then I have it. So I'll have that next time. I'll have it.
Because that's what's going to happen is this is totally it, because they're going to be like, no mask, and she coughed at a store. And everybody will turn around all at once and point and scream.
Well, we had a relief pilot come out here, test positive, and he drove down the street and tested negative, and then came out here.
That's because we don't know what they're testing for. They're testing for anything and everything.
They haven't isolated anything, but they say they have. But
they have not.
No, but they say they have, but they haven't, but they have. But maybe they have.
CDC says they have not.
If the people that are going to shut us down are listening, I say they have.
That's right. It's very
I don't know. Let's talk to the doctor about it real quick. Let's see what he has to say, because he has advice for us.
What I do is just say, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I'm serious here.
oh, don't worry, Scro. Now there are plenty of tards out there living really kick-ass lives. My first wife was tarded. She's a pilot now.
I need.
Don't worry, Scro. No, it's like whatever. Just shut up and wear the mask.
Excuse the language for the Christian show, but you should. You said it. Now I got to play it. Man,
Somebody said in the chat.
It's science, and you shut up and wear your mask. It's science, and you shut up and wear your mask. It's science, and you shut up and wear your mask.
Gosh, if Paul Rudd says so.
That's not edited. You know that? That's literally not edited. I didn't create that. I pulled that straight from the commercial. Pockets of the Future covered that on one of his videos.
I thought you got it from him.
No, I didn't get it from him. I pulled it straight from the actual commercial. That's not from him. But he covered it. He covered it from, what he does is he watches things and he just comments on it. That's not, people think I edited that and I looped it. Nope. That's how they're presenting it to people. And that plays. People listen to stuff like that. But guess what? And we're out of time. So we have to do this part where we give our final thoughts, and you're the guests. So what would you tell our room before you go until next time?
I would tell you guys to get your finances straight, get into the wealth transfer. That's going to be the best idea for you in your life. Buy gold and silver and don't wait. I'm not telling you this because it's my business. I'll help anyone who doesn't even want to get into my business with me if you have questions, because we are seeing the dollar just go crazy with this new stimulus package of millions of dollars going to every other country but our own. So we can get out of that. Let's get out from under the thumb of the biggest Ponzi scheme of the whole history of time, which is our U.S. government, and get gold and silver. I can help you whether you join my business or not. Do it. Email me, ladyliberty@countermail.com. Do it.
Do it. All right. Well, thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the discussion. Look into Easter, because if we're still doing this, we'll talk about Easter when Easter happens for sure. Tomorrow we're going to have Ceiling Fan Man here. So stop in the chat room and listen to him, because heart to heart with Ceiling Fan Man. It's awesome. He's a
heart to heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will see you next time.
Thank you.
Aaron. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Peace.
And put you in the back, and I am going to close us out with Destiny Lab Arc from Destiny Lab, giving us who, what, when, where, why, who, what, when, and that is, it's my daughter's favorite song, so I'm gonna play that. So put God first in everything you do, love your neighbors as yourself, and I will catch you tomorrow, God willing, with Ceiling Fan Man.
What, when, where, why, how?
sharper with a will-o-wisp. Suddenly slip from lips, cracking like whips quick. Nickety split, hit spit, spontaneous. Certainly sick, tongue trick, mischievous. Magical mixer with a vocal remarks. Embark to make art that is imprinted in hearts. Set us apart before the start of Genesis. Before we manifest the first man of the sediments. Impressed with its generous benefits. Incredible evidence expressed by divine intelligence. Smell the fragrance, the sweet perfume of the natural elements that beats in tune with the sound of instruments. The sun and the moon you could call as witnesses. Interplanetary blessing, laboratory testing, destiny manifesting. Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Running through streams, unexplainable streams that teach in the deep sleep of our REM dreams. Very interesting what's seen. Rapid eye movement like hummingbird wings. Breathe. Give thanks. Repeat with your speech. And a bleach hidden links. We seek out the seeds. We got plans as we preach. We feed and give drink to the hungry and weak. Reach deep to the root of the problem. The systems persist. We dig to rock bottom. Exposing these hoaxes. Revolting and rotten. Shocking to some that they fell for the jargon. They bargain their souls, but their hearts will accuse them. And soon they will witness a truth revolution. Evolution, execution, close to confusion. Exposed as a lie and illusion. What, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? There is clash like titans, at times quite frightening, attacking and striking like Vikings were fighting. Our village is village and plundered asunder. A sling and a stone, no weapon or armor. We stand and we fight with these secular giants, defying Goliaths whose God is the science. Applied with enormous amounts of deposits of evil and darkness, the shadow colossus. Tensions, obnoxious, precocious, and deadly hypnosis. Breeding as thought halitosis, spreading like viruses, bind like environments. Signs of the times, the devil has lied to us. We got the jugular of isms, the lumbering juggernaut that juggles the brain like aneurysms. Our spiritual is not invisible, invincible with syllables, ability to crush with a lyrical. Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what? Who, what, when, where, why, how? Who, how, when, where, why, what?
You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Go into the world and preach the gospel to all creation.
The lion will lie down with the lamb. There will be no more killing or destroying, and the voice of weeping shall be heard no more.